Chapter 91, This Kid Had Changed. Teve had no choice but to go to the accountant to advance more cash. That accountant was very straightforward and firm with him this time. Unless you dilute your shares in exchange for the money, I won't be able to complete this transaction. Teve thought about it for a moment. He thought he was going to win anyway, so he would be able to just return the money in a bit and get his shares back. After signing the necessary documents, he handed the 40 million yuan in chips to Tim, and Tim pushed all the chips into the center and said, "Reveal." Then, Su Cheng pretended to slowly pick up his hand to look. To be honest, he knew the result already. Tim's straight was obviously smaller than his triplet, and that was why he suggested that they play blind in the first place. Lin Chuxu looked at Su Cheng nervously. In fact, when Tim flipped over his card, she already felt that Su Cheng's odds of winning weren't big. After all, his opponent had a straight, and no one could be confident when they were playing the whole round blind. Seeing Su Cheng staring at his hand for a long time, Teve thought he was dying on the inside already, and he immediately laughed. "I told you to not make risky bets. You worked hard to earn money. Are you planning to borrow money from Nicole now that you lost so much? If that's the case, then I'm even embarrassed to take the money I won from you. That will require you to win first." Su Cheng smiled, and he began flipping over his hand card by card. When 5 of hearts, 8 of hearts, J of hearts were flipped over on the table, the smile on Su Cheng's face formed a bright contrast with the sullen expressions on Teve and Tim's face. When Lin Lei came in and saw the huge pile of chips in the middle of the table, Su Cheng immediately said to him, "Lei, get a few buckets and pack these chips in. Your brother-in-law's gonna take you out for a great time." Lin Lei immediately began giggling as he climbed onto the table and packed all the chips, and Lin Chuxu also let out a sigh of relief. If Su Cheng lost, then he would be out of a couple tens of millions of yuan. However, now there were more than 100 million yuan in chips on this table, and one could imagine how much pain Teve was in just from the look on his face. His heart hurt, his face hurt, his whole body wasn't fine. "Hey man, you didn't have to do this. Even though we are guests, you didn't have to deliberately lose this much money to us. It's fine, just looking at how heartbroken you are and how you can't handle the defeat, I shouldn't take this money. Come, you can take these chips back." Su Cheng looked at him with a big smile, deliberately make fun of Teve. At this moment, if Teve really took the money back, then he would truly lose all face and dignity today. Su Cheng even especially emphasized they can't handle defeat part in front of the Lin couple, so if he really took back the money, then it would make him look like a sore loser. Fact. Teve was furious, especially after what Su Cheng said. Although he was bleeding on the inside, he could only say in a generous manner, "It's just a couple dozen million yuan, it's just you that is overreacting since you probably have never seen this much money before." Su Cheng wasn't angry at all. Teve could say whatever he wanted, since at the end of the day, Su Cheng was the one that won all the money. He then said to the Lin couple, "Mom, Dad, where do you guys want to go in during your time here? What do you want to buy? Tell me, don't worry about the money." Lin Gairan and his wife smiled. "This guy." Lin Chuxu rolled her eyes at Su Cheng, but there was a faint smile on her face. She knew this guy was just trying to mock Teve. Mommy Lin knew Su Cheng was lucky to win this much money and felt that he might have used up all of his luck and would start losing next, so she immediately made a wise call. "It's about time, should we head back now?" And now Teve was nervous. Why not stay for a little longer? Holy fuck, that money was collateralized by my shares, how can I explain to my parents if I don't win the money back? Those 40 million yuan was given to him after he put 1.4% of his shares down as collateral, and now he only had 18.6% left. He must immediately fill in the 40 million yuan hole, or if the other shareholders noticed this, they would definitely pay 40 million to take that 1.4% of shares without hesitation. When that happens, then his weight on the board committee would be severely affected, and his family would definitely beat the crap out of him if they were to find out. After all, they sent their son over to run the casino, yet he actually diluted his shares and started gambling. Of course they would beat the crap out of him. "Look, uncle hasn't even had his fun yet, how about you guys just stay for a little longer?" Teve anxiously suggested. Su Cheng took a look at his watch. "It's time to eat, let's go find a restaurant first." "Mr. Teve, if you think you lost too much and can't explain it to your parents, then I will just return the money to you. Come, let Master Su give you some money out of pity." Not much, just a couple dozen million. Didn't you look at me with disdain like you were looking at a hobo? Now, the hobo will give you a couple million out of pity, so come and kneel before me. The look on Su Cheng's face was spelling this out to Tevei, and Tevei's face became even darker. Su Cheng, to be honest, I don't care about losing money, but I'm just not convinced because you won the money purely by luck. You lost money, of course you are not convinced. Su Cheng knew to poke where it hurt the most, and he just kept on dwelling on the lost money part, and Tevei was so angry that he almost rushed up to try to fight him. Su Cheng, it might not be very polite to leave right after we win money, maybe we should play a few more rounds. Lin Gairan naturally knew the consequences Tevei had to face after losing this much family money. He was also a businessman operating a family business, so he naturally knew that each family member only had a finite amount of cash at their disposal, and a majority of their wealth needed the consent of most members in the family before it could be used. Just now, Tevei didn't ask for any permission and personally decided to dilute his shares for some cash. Su Cheng obviously had to listen to his father-in-law, so he said to Lin Lei, just put the money back in. Lin Lei then looked at Tevei as he casually mocked, a guy that runs the casino is afraid of the client leaving after winning money? If you can't handle defeat well, then maybe you shouldn't operate casinos. Tevei was a little embarrassed, but he had no choice but to endure the humiliation since he wasn't ready for the consequences of his family and the rest of the casino board finding out. Reasonably speaking, we should be here to celebrate and support you since you just started operating this casino, so it isn't polite for us to win this much money from you. But, since you have the balls to operate the casino, it must mean you have some gambling experts in the house. How about this? I will put all this money on the line again, and maybe you can show me what you got to prove the skills of your pros. Su Cheng said to Tevei, and it was exactly what Tevei was waiting for. Of course, as long as you will stay and keep playing, I will show you. Very well, but let's speed up the process, or it will take you a couple of years to win all this money back. How about this? The base amount will be 1 million, and each raise can't be less than 1 million. Tevei, okay. Then, he got the accountant to dilute his shares again and got 50 million out in one go. Now, the game was just between Su Cheng and Tevei. The Lin couple stood on the side and spectated as they enjoyed some nice wine. Lin Chuxu also had a wine glass in her hand as she stood beside Su Cheng. A new round was beginning. Tim was still standing by Tevei's side as his advisor. When Su Cheng got his hand, he took a look and saw a pair of J. He came over to his father-in-law Lin Gairan and asked, "Dad, what do you think of my hand? Should I gamble with it?" Lin Gairan pouted. "The odds aren't in your favor." Then, Su Cheng saw through Tevei's hand and saw that the biggest play he had was just 1 king. He immediately laughed, and he threw over 50 million right away. "Let's end it in one round." Holy fuck, Tevei's eyes twitched. What the fuck is this? This guy wasn't being reasonable at all and directly threw in 50 million. Lin Gairan was also shocked. The point was that if the opponent saw through Su Cheng's bluff then Su Cheng was basically giving this money away for free. After all, a pair of J wasn't big. But, Tevei pussied out. The biggest play he could make was a single K, so of course he would pussy out. The second round began, and Tevei got a pair of 8s. Su Cheng's biggest play was an ace. After showing it to Lin Gairan directly told him to fold. But, who knew Su Cheng would capriciously throw in the 50 million again? Tevei was almost about to cry, how can this guy bully me like this? If he wasn't so cash-strained, he would for sure battle it to the end with Su Cheng. However, he really didn't have the confidence with just a pair of 8s in his hand. Sigh. Whatever. Tevei thought and directly folded. Of course, Su Cheng didn't forget to seize the opportunity to ridicule him. The biggest taboo in gambling is being psychologically overwhelmed by the opponent. Of course, that was what he did. When he saw that Tevei's hand wasn't very good, he would destroy Tevei's mental line of defense with tons of money. Now, Tevei was on the passive side, because even if Su Cheng lost 50 million, he still won 10 million overall. However, Tevei couldn't afford to lose any more. So, after seeing Su Cheng directly raising 50 million, if Tevei didn't have a good hand, Su Cheng knew Tevei for sure wouldn't dare to gamble. Lin Gairan also saw through the strategy Su Cheng was using. After seeing Su Cheng's hands a couple of times and how he still dared to play big like this, he knew Su Cheng was also playing the psychological game. If at first, he thought Su Cheng was a newbie at gambling, well, that was definitely not the case anymore. We haven't seen this kid for so many years, and he really completely changed after joining the army, Lin Gairan quietly whispered to his wife.